Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Reeves, and 2 years ago, my face lit up Times Square in New York City. But 6 months before that, I was sleeping in the dusty attic of my aunt's mansion in Connecticut during the annual Reeves family reunion. That attic had an old mattress, boxes of Christmas decorations, and a musty smell that no spray could disguise. It was where they kept the leftovers, both objects and people. And in that family, I was always considered a leftover. What my cousin Vanessa, everyone's favorite, didn't know was that while she was making a point of humiliating me in front of everyone, I was about to close a deal that would change my life. A secret that my Uncle Edward, the only one who really saw me, helped keep. This is the story of how I went from Attic Emma to that Reeves in less than a year, and how I discovered that sometimes the best revenge isn't an explosion of anger, but the glow of your name in neon. Growing up in the Reeves family meant living in the shadow of success. My father's side of the family built their fortune in real estate development across New England, with my Aunt Diane and her husband Richard at the helm of the empire since my grandparents retired to Palm Beach. Every summer, the entire extended family would gather at their Connecticut estate, a colonial revival mansion with perfectly manicured gardens and a view of Long Island Sound. From an early age, I learned my place in the hierarchy. My parents' divorce when I was 7 created the first fracture. My father moved to California for a fresh start, rarely looking back, while my mother and I remained in Boston, living comfortably but modestly on her teacher's salary and my father's inconsistent support payments. To the rest of the Reeves clan, we became the cautionary tale. My cousin Vanessa, Aunt Diane's daughter, was everything I wasn't. Polished, confident, and groomed to take over the family business. She attended Choate Rosemary Hall before Yale, while I went to public school and then to NYU on scholarship. At family gatherings, Vanessa made sure everyone remembered these differences. When I was 13, during Thanksgiving dinner, Vanessa accidentally spilled cranberry sauce all over my new dress, the one my mother had saved for months to buy. As everyone fussed over cleaning the tablecloth, Vanessa whispered, "That's an improvement. Target's fall collection isn't really dinner appropriate anyway." No one heard except me. By 16, I developed my coping mechanism, a sketchbook where I designed clothing I couldn't afford to buy. My Uncle Edward, Diane's younger brother, and the family's black sheep who'd chosen art over real estate, noticed. One afternoon, while everyone was playing tennis, he found me sketching by the pool. "You've got a real eye for design, Emma," he said, flipping through my book. "Have you ever thought about fashion school?" I laughed it off. "Not exactly in the budget, Uncle Ed." He looked at me thoughtfully. "Not everything valuable is expensive, and not every investment shows its return immediately." He handed me a business card for Eleanor Hayes, creative director at Hayes and Mercer, a boutique fashion house in Manhattan. "She owes me a favor. Send her your portfolio." That was the beginning of my secret. Internships and part-time work at Hayes and Mercer throughout college, learning the business from the ground up. By graduation, I was designing accessories for their seasonal collections, with plans for my own line. It was a world entirely separate from the Reeves family gatherings I still attended, out of obligation to my mother, who believed family connections were important no matter how painful. What no one in the family knew, except Uncle Edward, was that I was about to launch my own brand of handbags and accessories, with financial backing from Eleanor Hayes herself. The campaign was set to debut in 3 months, right after the dreaded annual summer reunion. The invitation to the annual Reeves-Scamley reunion arrived in my Brooklyn apartment with its usual gold-embossed letterhead. 3 days in Connecticut, celebrating Aunt Diane and Uncle Richard's 35th wedding anniversary alongside the traditional family gathering. I almost declined, but my mother's voice echoed in my head. Family is family, Emma. Sometimes we need to rise above. So there I was, pulling up to the estate in an Uber while others arrived in Range Rovers and Mercedes. Vanessa greeted guests at the entrance in a designer sundress, her diamond engagement ring catching the sunlight. She'd recently gotten engaged to Bradley Harrington III, heir to a banking fortune, and her perfect match in every superficial way. "Emma, you made it," she said with practiced enthusiasm. "We weren't sure if you could get away from your, what is it you do again, retail?" "Design consulting," I replied vaguely, the practiced response to family inquiries about my career. "How fascinating," she said, already looking past me to the next arrival. "We're a bit tight on rooms this year with Bradley's parents joining us. I hope you don't mind staying in the attic suite. It's cozy." The attic suite was a glorified storage room with a twin bed and a small bathroom that hadn't been updated since the 1970s. The slanted ceiling made it impossible to stand upright in half the space, and the summer heat transformed it into an oven despite the ancient window unit air conditioner that rattled but barely cooled. That evening at dinner, I found myself seated at the far end of the table, between my second cousin's children and Uncle George, who was partially deaf and talked exclusively about his golf game. The conversation at the main section of the table, where Vanessa presided with Bradley and her parents, revolved around their upcoming wedding and the merger — they didn't even try to hide that term — between the Reeves and Harrington business interests. "Emma," Aunt Diane called down the table during dessert, "Vanessa tells me you're still doing something with those sketches you used to make. Crafting, was it?" Before I could answer, Vanessa jumped in. "Mom, Emma works in fashion. She helps sell handbags or something at that little boutique in the city. It's adorable." Uncle Richard chuckled. "Well, we all have to start somewhere. Though at your age, Emma, you might want to think about something with more growth potential. The retail apocalypse isn't just coming, it's here." I felt my cheeks burn as laughter rippled through the table. Uncle Edward, seated halfway between us, caught my eye and gave me a subtle nod of encouragement. "Actually," I began, but was cut off by Bradley launching into a story about his recent helicopter skiing trip in Aspen. After dinner, I escaped to the garden with a glass of wine, checking my emails discreetly. My production manager had sent photos of the final prototypes for my collection. They were perfect. Eleanor had secured us a major digital marketing push, including, though I still couldn't believe it, a billboard in Times Square for the launch week. "Planning your escape?" Uncle Edward appeared beside me, lighting a cigarette. "Just checking work stuff," I said, quickly putting my phone away. "How's the big secret coming along? Still on schedule?" I nodded. 3 more months. The samples are even better than I hoped. I never doubted it. He glanced back toward the house. "You know, I've watched you endure these gatherings for years. Their comments, Vanessa's little digs. You've handled it with more grace than anyone deserves. What choice do I have? Make a scene? Confirm their opinion that I'm the family failure? There's a difference between making a scene and standing your ground." He took a long drag. "Just remember, in the real world, the one that matters, you're already leagues ahead of most of them." The next morning, I woke to find a small puddle of water on the floor beneath the window. The summer rain had found its way through the poorly sealed attic window. As I was sopping it up with towels, Vanessa appeared at the door. "Emma, there you are. Mom's looking for you. The caterers need help setting up for the luncheon." "I'd do it, but Bradley and I have that meeting with the wedding planner in an hour." She paused, taking in my damp surroundings. "Oh dear, is there a leak? I'll have someone look at it. Eventually. Anyway, come down as soon as you can. The staff needs direction." By staff, she meant me. For the next 3 hours, I helped arrange tables, direct caterers, and essentially worked as an unpaid event coordinator while the rest of the family enjoyed mimosas on the terrace. Vanessa made several appearances, always with a new suggestion that was really a thinly veiled criticism of my efforts. The tension culminated that evening when Vanessa clinked her glass during the anniversary dinner. Before we toast, Mom and Dad, Bradley and I have an announcement. We've decided to move up the wedding to next month. As excited gasps circulated, she continued, and I've asked my dearest cousin Emma to help with all the little details, place cards, favors, the crafty things she's so good at. All eyes turned to me, waiting for my gracious acceptance of this honor. In that moment, my phone vibrated in my pocket. It was an email from Eleanor with the subject line, "Confirmed, Times Square billboard, July 15th. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of rain hammering against the attic window and a steady drip, drip on my forehead. Overnight, the small leak had become a significant problem, soaking my pillow and the edge of my mattress. I moved to the dry side of the bed and checked the time, 6:30 a.m., too early to complain, but too wet to go back to sleep. By the time I made it downstairs at 8, the house was already bustling with activity. Today was the big family picnic and croquet tournament, a Reeves tradition that dated back 3 generations. And of course, the rain had stopped right on cue. The universe wouldn't dare disrupt the Reeves family plans. "Emma, there you are," Aunt Diane approached, clipboard in hand. "We need someone to help set up the croquet course. The groundskeeper is running behind." "Actually, Aunt Diane, I need to talk to you about my room. The roof is leaking and my bed is soaked." She barely looked up from her clipboard. "Oh dear, that's unfortunate. I'll have someone look at it tomorrow. For now, just move the bed. The grounds crew needs help immediately. We have guests arriving at 11. Before I could protest, she was already walking away, barking orders into her phone. I stood there, wet hair still dripping down my neck, when Vanessa and her bridesmaids swept through the foyer in matching athleisure outfits. "Emma, you look damp," Vanessa said with a smirk. "The attic acting up? I told Mom we should have renovated it years ago, but it's so rarely used, only when we're really overbooked." She turned to her friends and stage whispered, "Family obligation, you know how it is." The bridesmaids, all daughters of prominent New England families, tittered obligingly. One of them, Madison, whom I'd met at previous gatherings, at least had the decency to look embarrassed. "We're heading out for a quick Pilates session before the picnic." "Oh, and could you make sure my special sun hat is steamed? It got a bit crushed in the luggage." She didn't wait for an answer before gliding out the door. I spent the next 2 hours setting up croquet wickets and arranging picnic tables, instead of working on the final details for my collection launch. When I finally checked my phone, I had 3 missed calls from Eleanor and a text that read, "Urgent, call me, billboard mock-up needs approval today." As I was about to step away to make the call, Uncle Richard corralled me into serving champagne to the arriving guests. "Family all pitches in, Emma. That's the Reeves way." By noon, the picnic was in full swing. I'd managed to send a quick approval email to Eleanor between serving duties, but couldn't take her call with so many people around. The risk of someone overhearing was too great. The tension inside me built as the afternoon wore on. Every condescending comment, every task assigned as if I were the help rather than family, every backhanded compliment about how resourceful I was to work in that little shop, it all compounded. The breaking point came during the croquet award ceremony. Vanessa had won, again, likely because Uncle Richard, who acted as referee, conveniently missed her ball's contact with another player's. As glasses were raised in her honor, she grabbed the opportunity to make another announcement. "While I have everyone's attention, I wanted to share some exciting news. Bradley and I will be moving into the east wing of the estate after the wedding. Mom and Dad are gifting it to us as part of the family legacy continuation. Applause erupted as Richard beamed proudly. We always said this place needed the patter of great-grandchildren's feet. And, Vanessa continued, locking eyes with me across the lawn, we'll be renovating the entire east side, including that sad little attic. Maybe we'll make it a proper guest room finally, so poor Emma doesn't have to suffer next year. Laughter rippled through the crowd, and something in me snapped. I set down my serving tray with a clatter that silenced the group. Actually, Vanessa, I won't be needing that room next year, or any room in this house, for that matter. The crowd hushed as all eyes turned to me. Aunt Diane stepped forward, her smile strained. Emma, dear, this isn't the time for— It's exactly the time, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. For years, I've been treated as an afterthought in this family, the poor relation, the cautionary tale, the one assigned to the leaking attic and serving duties. Now, that's not fair, Uncle Richard began, but I cut him off. What's not fair is pretending we're one big happy family when the reality is a clear hierarchy with me at the bottom. But here's what none of you know. I took a deep breath. While you've been dismissing me and my little shop job, I've been building my own company, my own designs, my own brand. I pulled out my phone and showed them the email with the billboard mock-up, my name and designs illuminating Times Square. In 3 weeks, my first collection launches nationwide, backed by Eleanor Hayes of Hayes & Mercer. And next month, when you're all planning Vanessa's wedding, I'll be opening my flagship store in Soho. The silence was deafening. Vanessa's face had drained of color, her mother frozen beside her. So thank you for the attic room. It was the perfect reminder of where I stand in this family, and exactly why I've worked so hard to build something of my own. Uncle Edward stepped forward, slow clapping with a grin spreading across his face. Well, it's about damn time someone shook up this place. I turned to leave, but paused at the edge of the lawn. Oh, and Vanessa, I won't be able to help with those wedding favors after all. I'm afraid I'll be busy that day, on a billboard, in Times Square. The silence that followed my exit lasted about 3 seconds before erupting into chaos. As I walked toward the house to pack my things, I heard Uncle Richard's booming voice demanding explanations, Aunt Diane's attempts to salvage the situation, and the excited murmurs of relatives suddenly reevaluating their black sheep cousin. I was halfway up the stairs when Uncle Edward caught up with me, slightly out of breath and grinning like a teenager who'd just witnessed an epic prank. That, he said, was 30 years in the making. Not just for you, for every Reeves who didn't fit the mold. He squeezed his shoulder. Your grandmother would have loved it. She had the same fire before Richard and Diane steamrolled her into selling her share of the business. I didn't know that, I said, pausing on the landing. There's a lot about this family you don't know, probably for the best. He glanced back down the staircase. Pack quickly. I'll drive you to the train station. As I was throwing my belongings into my suitcase, Madison, one of Vanessa's bridesmaids, appeared at the attic door. That was— wow, she said, leaning against the doorframe. Everyone's still out there talking. Vanessa's furious, but honestly, most people are impressed. She hesitated. I've actually followed Hayes and Mercer for years. If you're really working with Eleanor Hayes— I'm not just working with her, I said. She's my business partner and mentor. Madison's eyes widened. That's incredible. I've been trying to break into fashion marketing for 2 years, but my parents insisted on my finishing my MBA first. She pulled out her phone. Would it be weird if I gave you my contact info, just in case you ever need marketing help? I almost laughed at the irony. 12 hours ago, she wouldn't meet my eyes as Vanessa mocked me. But I took her number anyway. Business was business. and burning bridges wouldn't help my launch. Uncle Edward and I were almost to his car when Aunt Diane intercepted us, her perfect French twist now slightly askew. "Emma, this behavior is completely unacceptable. You've embarrassed the entire family, and on our anniversary weekend, no less." "I think what's unacceptable is how you've treated me for years," I replied calmly. "I'm not apologizing for my success." "Success?" she scoffed. "A few handbags in a boutique. Richard is on the phone with his contacts at Hayes and Mercer right now. Do you think they'll risk their relationship with Reeves Development over some nepotism project?" At this, Uncle Edward stepped forward. "Diane, you're embarrassing yourself. Emma's collection has been in development for 2 years. She earned this entirely on her own merit. I made sure of it when I introduced her to Eleanor." Aunt Diane's face registered shock, then betrayal. You've been undermining the family this whole time?" "No, Diane. I've been supporting talent and integrity, 2 things this family used to value before it became all about appearances and connections." He opened the car door for me. "Emma has more of Grandma Reeves in her little finger than the rest of you combined. Now, if you'll excuse us." The drive to the station was quiet at first, both of us processing the seismic shift that had just occurred. "Will there be blowback?" I finally asked. "For you, I mean." He shrugged. "What can they do? I'm already the disappointment. Besides, my stock in the company is voting shares. Richard may control the majority, but they can't push me out entirely." When my train pulled into Grand Central, I had 17 missed calls. My mother, Eleanor, several cousins, and even Vanessa. I ignored them all and took a taxi straight to the Hayes and Mercer offices, where Eleanor was waiting with the finalized campaign materials. "You're trending," she said by way of greeting, turning her tablet toward me. My social media notifications had exploded. Apparently, Madison had wasted no time sharing a cryptic post about a major new designer with a family drama backstory worthy of Succession. "Great," I groaned. "That's exactly what I wanted for my brand launch. Family gossip?" "Are you kidding?" Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "Mystery, intrigue, the underdog success story? We couldn't buy this kind of organic buzz. The question is, how do you want to control the narrative?" That night, I wrote a single, carefully worded post. Family reunions can be complicated. Launching your own brand can be even more so. Sometimes they happen simultaneously. Details coming soon. #ReevesDesign. Over the next 3 weeks, as we finalized the launch, the ripple effects from my exit continued. My mother called daily, torn between pride in my imminent success and distress over the family rift. Several cousins reached out with congratulations and investment offers. Uncle Richard made thinly veiled threats through his lawyers about the use of the Reeves name, which Eleanor's legal team shut down immediately. The most surprising development came from Vanessa. A week before my billboard was set to go live, she appeared at the Hayes and Mercer offices unannounced. "You've got a lot of nerve," she said when the receptionist showed her into the conference room where I was working. "Says the woman who just showed up at my workplace without warning," I replied, not looking up from the layout I was reviewing. "You humiliated me in front of my friends, my fiancé's family." "No, Vanessa, you humiliated yourself. Years of treating me like the help finally caught up with you." I finally met her gaze. "What do you want?" She sat down, visibly deflating. "Bradley's parents are reconsidering the merger." "That's not my problem." "They said if the Reeves family can't even maintain proper relationships with their own, how can they be trusted as business partners?" She looked at me directly for what felt like the first time. "The wedding's been postponed." I felt a flicker of satisfaction, then guilt, then resolve. "I'm sorry about your wedding, but not sorry enough to pretend the way I was treated was okay." "I know." She stared at her perfectly manicured hands. Dad's furious, but Mom, she actually said she respected your entrepreneurial spirit. And Uncle Edward sent over some old photos of Grandma Reeves. Did you know she designed clothes before she married Grandpa? I didn't. Apparently, she wanted to start a fashion line, but in those days, Vanessa shrugged. Anyway, I came to say that while I'm still angry, I'm also impressed. And to give you this. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was an invitation to her rescheduled wedding, 6 months later, significantly downsized, and at a venue that wasn't the family estate. No attic room this time, she said with the ghost of a smile. And I'd like to talk to you about possibly carrying some of your pieces in the Reeves retail properties as a business arrangement, not a family favor. The day my billboard went live in Times Square, I stood across the street watching my name illuminate the New York skyline. My phone buzzed with a text from Uncle Edward. Grandma Reeves is smiling down today. Another text followed from my mother, a photo of her standing beneath the billboard, grinning widely with a group of her teacher friends. So proud of you. Your father called, he saw it online. First time we've spoken in years. He's proud too. Then came the most unexpected message from Aunt Diane. The attic has been renovated into a proper guest suite. It will be waiting for you at Christmas, if you decide to come. Your uncle and I have been doing some reflecting. I looked up at my name shining bright above the city and realized that success wasn't just about proving my worth to a family that had undervalued me. It was about finding my own definition of family, one that included mentors like Eleanor, unexpected allies, and even the possibility of healing old wounds on new, more equal terms. As tourists around me snapped photos of the billboard, a woman asked, "Are you a fan of that designer? The bags are gorgeous." I smiled. "Actually, I'm Emma Reeves." "No way!" She excitedly pulled out her phone. "Can I get a selfie with you? My daughter's going to freak. She's been following your story on social media." As we posed beneath my glowing name, I realized that the attic had given me exactly what I needed all along. The motivation to build something no one could take away from me, not even the Reeves family. Looking back now, 3 years after that fateful family reunion, I can honestly say that the dusty attic was the best thing that ever happened to me. It became the catalyst for claiming my own identity and building my own legacy, separate from the Reeves name, but still honoring the creative spirit of my grandmother that I never knew I inherited. My relationship with my family has evolved in ways I never expected. Some bonds strengthened, others faded, but all shifted into something more authentic. Vanessa and I will never be best friends, but we've developed a mutual respect that's surprisingly satisfying. Uncle Edward remains my biggest champion, and Aunt Diane has made genuine efforts to make amends, sometimes awkwardly, but sincerely. The Emma Reeves brand has expanded beyond my wildest dreams, with 3 flagship stores and a thriving online presence. And yes, we're now carried in select Reeves Properties retail locations, a business decision that benefits us both. So, if you're watching this and feeling underestimated, overlooked, or relegated to your own metaphorical attic, remember, sometimes being underestimated is your greatest advantage. Use that quiet time to build, create, and prepare for the moment when you'll step into your own light. Your Times Square moment might look different from mine, but I promise you it's out there waiting. The people who dismiss you today may be applauding you tomorrow, or not. Either way, you'll be too busy shining to notice. If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe and share your own family reunion survival stories in the comments. And remember, sometimes the path to success starts in the most unlikely places, even a leaky attic.